All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for a live show with the Alaska MEP. I'm here with our great friend, Kurt Anderson, and our e-commerce expert, and we're super excited to chat with you all today about successful exit strategies for manufacturers with Damon.
Sammy Joel, thank you. What an absolute honor and privilege to be here today with the Alaska MEP as we talk with our friendly manufacturers about a great topic. Boy, whether we like it or not, at some point in time, we need to have that big exit strategy discussion. And we brought in the expert, Damon Pastulka, the co-founder of Exit Your Way from Seattle, Washington. Damon, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Sammy, Joe, and Kurt, thanks for having me here today.
Well, what an honor and privilege, and we're gonna dig deep. Sammy Joe, why don't you kick things off? Let's just roll up our sleeves and dig right into these questions for Damon.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Damon, again for being here. So I want to start off with when should business owners or manufacturers start thinking about their exit strategy?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty easy question, Sammy Joe, because you're gonna read stuff. They're gonna say you should start from the beginning, but realistically, no one does that, right? You might have an idea, but no one really does it. So let's be practical about it. If you've got a large amount of money that you're going to get from the sale of your business, you really need to do this like 7-8 years ahead of it. And contact the tax advisors, because tax advisors can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars in tax consequences if you do it more than 5 years before the transaction. There's all kinds of things they can do to help, get your money to charities and just different things they can do. But in most cases, in a normal business sale, you should at least 5 years. You should be thinking about it, talking about with your tax person. Again, it may not have that kind of consequence, but it's going to have a lot of consequence in what you need to do, because the actual preparation part of it, if you need to say do some things, and we'll talk about it in a moment, if I need to augment my team, if I need to strengthen up some other internal part, if I need to beef up my sales, whatever it is, there's a lot of things that may need to happen prior. So giving yourself time, it's like the wrestlers, when I was in high school, you used to see these wrestlers, they try to drop those last 5 pounds the day before, and they're sweating it out like crazy. You don't want to be in that situation. You want to have time to do it, and really to enjoy the exit, the process of preparing your business for that exit, and really celebrate it like you should.
I love that, Damon. Great point. I love the wrestling analogy. That's fantastic, because these poor wrestlers are like starving. They have they have no energy or strength,
Yeah.
trying to lose
Yeah.
weight, and then they have to go out and do a wrestling match. Kind of,
Yeah.
not the best equation. But for entrepreneurs, for manufacturers that are trying to sell their business, sometimes sometimes you're reactive, whether you want to or not. Maybe a health issue, maybe a unfortunate life issue comes up. When people have a shorter runway, any tips or advice there?
Well, in the shorter runway, I mean, you can do some, but you can't do some of the longer term things. I mean, you can, you're obviously not going to be able to change fundamentally your business. You're going to want to do as much as you can to strengthen your team and obviously your sales growth and profitability. But those are the shorter term things you can affect if you got a year or so to do it. Because it's going to take a year anyway to sell your business. People might say you can do it in 6 months, but it doesn't happen in 6 months. It'll take that, take a few months to get your materials ready and everything and prepare. And then you're going to be on market. It's going to be a year by the time you're done. So you've got a full year to work on a lot of things.
Love it. So systems, processes. Sammy, what do you have next for us?
No, yeah, thank you so much for going over that. I appreciate that. It's good to start looking at it at least 5 years ahead of time. So I appreciate that. What is the common stumbling blocks or roadblocks that you see people and businesses run into when they're trying to exit their business?
Yeah, you can Google this too, but it's first one is owner's price expectations. I mean, it just can't line up. It's like, I'm not going to sell my business for $1 million because to me it feels like it's worth 3. Or I read an article in the Wall Street Journal that said it's worth 3, should be worth 3, so mine should be worth. Well, the value of your business is really what the cash flow will support or the buyer wants to pay. So you really have to get comfortable with where you think it's going to be, where someone can help you develop what the market price is and get comfortable with that. Cause that is the number one reason why businesses don't sell, big or small, right? It doesn't matter. Cause if my business is worth $10 million and somebody will only pay me 5, but I'm making about that much every year or something like that, I'm going, well, I'll just run it for a few years if it's that value. And they're right. There's some situations where that might be what you want to do, but owner's price expectation is the number one stumbling block. The second one is your business has a limited team that leaves the owner key to the business success. So you've got a limited team to where, Kurt knows everything about the business. He's running, or Sammy Joe knows everything about the business. You're the founder, you're the brainchild, you're the one that people come to for everything to figure out. You've got other people in the business, but they're basically doing what you're saying and not really having responsibility for things like sales and operations and finance. And you can have just a few people like that. It's not like we're talking about huge businesses, but if you're key to it from a buyer's perspective, they're going to go, what do I have left if you leave? So that's a big. So the second one is a limited team where the owner is still key to the business success. And the last one is, and a lot of people don't really understand the total ramifications of this, but it is little or no growth. And what happens is over time, especially if I'm in a business a long time, so I'm going to start my business. I got to work really hard to get my business so it, just pays my bills. It gives me an income, right? And then over time, pretty soon, if you got kids, the kids are through college or they're out on their own doing their own thing. Now I don't have to pay for that. And then pretty soon my house is paid off. I don't have to pay for that. So there's really not the incentive for that business owner to continue growing that business unless it's something they really are intentionally doing, because they don't need that money anymore, right? They don't need as much money as you get farther along in your business. But from the buyer's perspective, that little or no growth situation can be catastrophic to them because they're at the beginning end of this thing and they are going to have to pay back a loan or a return on their investment for what they do, or they got the cash flow from the business has to support the payment to the previous owner and themselves going forward. That growth, if there's growth there and something happens, well, at least I've got growth. If I lose a customer or two, I've got the growth that can replace that. And so really little or no growth is a huge detractor to buyers.
Okay, great. You know what, Damon, man, that was good. Let's recap a couple things here. So number one, expectation of the price of the business. We're just, unfortunately, as entrepreneurs, we put our heart, our soul, 20 years, 30 years, and we think it's worth X. Well, unfortunately, our business is only worth what the person across the table is willing to pay us for. Damon, a mentor friend years and years ago shared this with me. I'd love to see if you agree with this. They said, a great way to kind of get an evaluation of your business, you can go to experts. Like I know, Damon, you do evaluations. You can go to your accountant, so on and so forth. They were like, you know what? Go to a bank. Go to a bank and ask the bank, what is the maximum loan that you would be willing to give this business? Because that really is what your business is worth, because the new owner is going to do the exact same way. So if that's a real short and easy one. So number one, the expectations, I'll say. Number two is, as the owner, if you're the key employee, that is a huge vulnerability. And number three, if your business doesn't have any growth, maybe the owner, the new buyer, not necessarily like a vulture buyer, but they're looking for companies to buy undervalued. And if you don't have any growth, you are not maximizing your sales. So I love those three points.
And I'll give you one more thing on the price, because you hit the exact thing that I talk to people about a lot. It right now with the SBA, the SBA will loan up to $5 million to buy a business on their 7A program, right? And to cover $1 million in value, they work on a thing called debt service ratio or some coverage ratio or something like that. I'm
Yeah.
escaping me, but it takes $220,000 now in free cash flow to support $1 million in business value. And that means, so if my business makes $220,000 after I pay everybody, including myself as the owner of the business, I can probably sell it for about $1 million. Because as Kurt said, going to the bank is a good way to figure out how much it is. The only thing that stinks about that is last year that was $180,000. The price of, as interest goes up, the buying power of the buyers goes down. So this growth comes even into more play.
Right. Great segue. Great.
Yeah. No, those are all great points to think about. Thank you so much, Damon. So if I'm a business owner and I'm like, okay, I'm going to exit my business, where is the first place someone would start? I mean, is that talking to your tax advisor? Is that going to the bank? I mean, where is like the number one place that's like, okay, you want to sell, you start here?
Go talk to either your or a good financial planner, because it's always like the buyer's or seller's remorse is common in a business. I mean, you put a lot of time, blood, sweat, and tears into it, and you really want to understand what I have to get. And I always tell people, figure out how much you would like to get from the business, or if you have to get a certain amount from your business. Because in small businesses, you may find out that my business is worth $500,000, but I really, if I want to retire, I need $750,000. So what do I do in that situation? This again goes back to timing, right? If I'm looking 5 years ahead, I have some things I can do. If retirement is 6 months away, I kind of got to take what I got. So you really go with a financial planner that says, okay, here's all the investments you have, or the things you have, properties, whatever. And it said, if you want to live this kind of lifestyle, it's going to take about this much. And they can give you approximately how much money you're going to need from the sale of that business, or be able to take from that business. So you can build the right next phase of your life like you want. And a lot of people just say, oh, get the value of your business. No. It doesn't matter. Because if you don't have the comparison number of how much do I really need to get from this, you don't know where you're going. So I always say start there, and then you figure out how you're going to get it from your business, right? So it might be a combination. I have to run my business for 5 more years, and then I can sell it at the value it is today. I'll do some work and make it better, a little more valuable. I do that. Maybe I can sell it tomorrow. But you really need to understand what that number is, because otherwise, why waste your time selling it if it's not going to be worth what you want, or you don't even know. And that's worse, because we've got to the point in years ago where we didn't have people do this in the beginning, and they would get to the point of getting an offer on a business, and then they go, oh, we go from here to here to here, and look at all the taxes they got to pay, and then they go talk to their financial person, and they go, we can't take that. It's not going to be enough. Well, do that at the beginning and you'll save a lot of time.
Well, you know what, Damon, there's a lot to unpack right there. Okay. There's a lot to unpack. And if somebody hasn't, sometimes, those stressful days, what is it? Phil Knight from Nike says, every day as an entrepreneur is a crisis. Every day as an entrepreneur is a crisis. You're putting out fires all day. There's no person that's more passionate than an entrepreneur, but boy, it's not for the weary. You talked about the seller's remorse. I really feel that we need to scratch that, and the emotional side.
Yeah.
Selling, I don't know if there's going to be something as an entrepreneur, if there's something more. And for the record, I sold my business in 2010. I don't know if there's something more emotional. It's your baby, it's your child. Like, you raise this thing up, and now you're going to sell it to somebody else. Damon, can you expand on the emotional side, and like, how do you prepare for that potential seller's remorse?
Well, in some cases, there are people that will help you do that, right? What's next? You got to really think about what's next. If you say, I'm going to go play golf, or I'm going to fish all day, that runs out in about 6 months, right?
Yes.
For most people. So you really need to understand what you're going to do next. And this is part of that whole planning process, because what I want to do next for the rest of my life, or the next phase of my life, really that determines how much money I need too. Because if I say I'm going to travel around the world, or I say I'm going to stay at home and build a cabin, it's, they're different needs. But you really have to figure out what you're going to do next, and get your mind ready for the fact that this is a transition in my life. Just like I came into business, I'm coming out of business, and embrace it and get ready for it.
Yeah, and just to piggyback one more, and then we'll move forward on the. You mentioned numbers, okay? So like the numbers that you threw out before, like just keep simple math. Hey, I'm going to sell my business for $1 million. My business needs to be cash flowing again for simple math, 200,000 ish,
Hmm.
right? Well, if I'm
Hmm.
pulling out a paycheck and if I have a net profit of $200,000, and I'm like, oh great, I'm going to sell my business for $1 million. Well, after taxes, like you've got to ask yourself, boy, was I better keeping my business, or like how far is that $1 million
Yeah.
today is not what it was, say, 20, 30, 40 years ago. And so like
Hmm.
that person really needs to look at that. That's where the emotion comes in. Hey,
Yes.
there's a health issue. There's a family issue. I have a personal thing. I'm just flat out. I'm spent. I've put in my light, my heart and soul. I don't have anything left in the gas tank. And Damon, you always talk about when people stay too long, then that's when it gets that's
Hmm.
goes in a bad direction, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it really is. It's you have to be ready for it, and there's going to be a time that you have to do it.
Right. Sounds like you really have to plan for it. I
Yeah.
mean, from what we're going over, 5 years, and it's like so hard because like I'm not a business owner, but I just know a lot of times when you get started in a business, you're just so excited and wrapped up in it
Hmm.
and so crazy busy. You're not thinking about getting rid of it until
Yeah.
you have to. And so really thinking about that, I mean, it almost seems like all entrepreneurs should go through a little, Damon session or something to like, hey, I'm starting a business. Well, I know we're not thinking about selling it, but know that you need to start 5 years in advance just to really put that on their radar. I think that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, when I used to run businesses for investor owners, when we would buy them, we would start talking about where we were going to sell them.
Oh, wow.
Where they were, because we would be in and out of them in 5 to 7 years, and you'd have to go,
Yeah.
okay, this is where we're going to sell it, or this is the other companies we're going to buy, and then we're going to sell it to this kind of place. But they start talking about it from the beginning because they're looking at it as we should be in smaller private owner owned businesses, is that it's a wealth generating tool for us. That's what it is.
Mhm.
That's what it really needs to be considered as.
Right. So diving into step one, get with your financial advisor. Sounds like that is very important. Can you talk about the importance of having solid financials in place when going to sell a business?
Yes. You can. Well, I've been in $50 million companies where people literally run it out of a checkbook, right? That's just like paying bills. There's money in the account, paying bills, all that kind of stuff. And to the point to where you get to pay, oh, we got to pay taxes. I got to go to the bank because I need $1 million to pay taxes, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you can do that, but when you go to sell your business, how the heck are you or anyone else going to determine, what are my actual costs on a weekly, monthly basis, annual basis, and what is my business value? Because if I'm not keeping good financial records and I'm intermingling my life and my business too much or without really designated which is which, you can mix them up, but you're going to have to pull it apart after a while. But if you don't have those records that are good, that someone else can verify that, hey, I billed $1 million. Here's where I got it coming into the bank, and here's how it went into my financials. It's going to be real hard for anyone to be able to, assess the financial health of your business. And I don't even know that you could get a business loan if you didn't have good financials. If there's someone's going to use a loan to buy it, so it's
Yeah.
critical.
It is, and Damon, you're hitting on the head, and it's very common for entrepreneurs that just that kind of slips through the cracks. We do our financials, quarterly, or somebody, a friend, a relative, or whatever, and they're just, I'd say that back, in my experience, that was one thing that we did was like we were meticulous down to a penny. Where whenever somebody wanted something, all we had to do was hit a button, and it
Hmm.
just it gave such a greater peace of mind, and you could sleep peacefully because you didn't have that stress of like, oh man, I got to go back to a receipt from 3 months ago and I've got to do this, got to do that. Boy, financials. As Damon said, if you're thinking about it, if you're just thinking about it, get your financial house in order. Contact Alaska MEP. They can connect you with a financial expert, get a great CPA accountant behind you, talk to someone like Damon, an expert, and just align yourself. But if you're going to do yourself one favor out of this conversation, get your financial house in order, you're going to really thank yourself.
Mhm.
You'll thank your future self will thank your current self. How's that?
Yeah. And I'm gonna put one more thing in here too about solid financials is as you're in the process of selling a business, every month you're going to want to be updating the performance of the business. And that will therefore update the value of your business every month. So if I'm on a growth phase and my business is actually worth more because my profitability has increased over the last 12 months, it's like a rolling 12-month schedule. That's how they when you're selling a business, determine the value. But if that's going up, you want to have that really good and really succinct, because then when you're discussing the sale of the business with the buyer, you can say, this is what it's worth today, but it's going up tomorrow, and it went up last month, just like and it helps tremendously to have that kind of information. And on the flip side of that, if you're going to make a change to your business for some reason, you want to see the impact right away.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
real important, critical.
Well, you hit a phenomenal point. And Damon, I don't know if you agree with this. When I've dealt with manufacturers, business owners that, they want to sell, but you know what the challenge is? And we talk about this all the time, Sammy Joe, like with our workshops, we're always talking about like, hey, how do we think of the customer in sales with our messaging, with our marketing, all that stuff? Think about the seller. Look at your business. Pretend like, if your home, like if like, how my home is right now compared to like if I was trying to sell my home, it's probably two different houses, right?
Yep.
We're touching up the paint. We're going to clean this. We're buying, like it's going to look, it's spick and span. So treat your business, because the business owner is buying this. And Damon, I'd love to see if you agree with this word. I have one word in mind, one word only: hope. They are buying hope. I hope that I'm going to buy this business, and shame on us for having an ego, but I'm going to take this business to a whole different level than what you could do. So they're buying hope. So when you sell your business, you're selling a story, you're selling your past, your expertise, your previous customers. But when they come in, like they need a fresh, clean slate, and they're trying to take this thing to a level that they intend on taking it, much higher than what you did. If you can paint that picture, share that story, and want them successful, encourage that success, that's when you're going to be successful with that sale, right? How do you feel?
Yes. Oh, yes. Because, the performance as of today establishes a price, but the hope and the way that you can communicate what tomorrow looks like, the more hope, the more you can communicate that tomorrow is a brighter future.
Yes.
And that buyer believes that, can see themselves in it, the better off you are.
Right. Perfect.
Gets deals
Thank
done.
you. Yeah. And I feel like it'd just be so hard to do that with just like the different emotions in play that come with selling your business. But I know we've touched on a lot of different points around this, but any more to say about how a business owner will really determine the value of their business? I know, as Kurt pointed out, maybe just going to the bank, seeing how much they can get for a loan. And then, you just talked about the different growths, doing check-ins month. Any more you can really dig into that to determine the value?
The real practical way that people do, if you're in the business of selling businesses, right, they're going to look at comparable transactions, and there's private databases, same ones the bank use. I mean, the banks use it to develop their valuation, and you're going to look at it. But when you look at a comparable transaction, I can look at, okay, we sold, these are 17 comparable transactions. This was their revenue. This was their profitability. This is the price they got as a multiple of revenue, multiple of profit. There's a whole bunch of things analytical that you can look at to really compare yourself to go, okay, where should I be within this range? Because there's a range. And do I fall in the bottom of the range or the high range compared to others? That helps a lot. But still, back to what Kurt said about the bank, that's a great, because it's going to get you close. And really at the end of the day, that first close guess is the one that you want to start out with.
Yeah, great, man. Damon, you are so good, man. This is such a great jam session. We're going to wind down. And one thing I want to share, that you and I, for folks new, you and I have a live stream show. We've interviewed some wonderful people, and different folks on selling a business. I want to share. We had a gentleman who, if I can say the name of the company, Big Ass Fans. Remember? So we had the founder, and he took this company from zero and built into a $500 billion. That's a
Mhm.
B, $500
The
million
B.
company. And he was quoted as saying this. In this, if I were to give any advice for someone trying to sell their business, this is what I would love to share. Don't treat it like your baby. And it's very difficult. And if you
Mhm.
can remove the emotion and treat it like an investment, treat it like a stock, treat it like a piece of real estate. But we get so emotional because it's attached to us. It's attached to our ego. But Kerry Smith, the founder of the company I just mentioned, I won't share that word again, Sammy Joe. But what his advice was, I never treated it like a baby. It was my investment. It was like a pack of gum. And when it was my pack of gum, it was great. And when you paid me for it, it was now your pack of gum. And if
Yep.
you can have, I hope if that one sticks with you, if you can treat your business, I don't mean to be so flippant about it, but if you can treat your company and remove the emotion and treat it like an investment, you're going to make much more sound, logical, rational decisions and just treat it like a pack of gum. So that's my advice. Damon, any other, as we wrap up, any other parting thoughts?
No, I agree 100%. Your business is a wealth generating machine.
Mhm.
It's an investment, and you need to, like you said, treat it as such, and do these things. Really take your time, get started early. Don't
Right.
wait till the end, because you can't change a lot in the end, and understand what it's worth, how much you need, and do the work. Do the work.
Mhm. No,
Hey, and
absolutely. And
we've got a comment in the chat section there. Hey, look at that. Hey,
yeah.
our buddy Jason's there. So Jason, thanks for
All
joining
right.
us. Appreciate it. We're gonna wind down. Sammy Joe, Damon and I are honored and blessed. We are going to be visiting Alaska. We have a great road show coming up in Kenai.
Yep.
Do you want to share what's going on at the Alaska MEP coming up in 2 weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for joining, Jason. I know I'm super happy that you enjoyed this. I know I've learned a lot about treating it like an investment, and this is something that all entrepreneurs should get in. We're super excited to have our experts, Kurt and Damon, both joining us on the Kenai Peninsula. It'll be hosted on Tuesday, May 30th at Cape Head. You can find the registration on our website, and we would love to talk to you about it more. We'll be talking about succession planning, SEO strategies, pricing your products to make a profit, and so much more. So we hope you all can join us.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for joining us. Sammy Joe,
Thanks for
thank you
having me.
for hosting us. You are, man, Damon, what a great hostess Sammy Joe is, huh?
Yes. Thanks for having me.
He knows how to throw a great party. So reach out to the Alaska MEP, any entrepreneurs, manufacturers out there. You need help taking your business to a new level. The Alaska MEP is an incredible, wonderful resource for you. And reach out to Sammy Joe and the team at Alaska MEP. Sammy Joe, take us away. Why don't you close us out and we'll wrap up.
No, thank you so much. I so appreciate you having you on the show, Damon. It was wonderful to have you interviewed, and I hope everyone learns so much and can get started and get in that 5-year plan ahead of time. Thank you,
Thanks for
guys.
having me.
Thanks, Damon.
Thank you.